Today I really want to talk about the embodiment phase, because I am in peak embodiment and I have so much to tell you about what it is like on this side. I think it's so good for you to know what you're headed towards. I promise you, where I'm standing right now, it was worth all of it. It feels like every single thing, like I can look back on a time and literally make sense of every single perceived catastrophe in hindsight, now realizing it all was part of this beautiful mosaic that is where I'm standing now, if that makes sense. I've been getting like a real taste of the embodiment phase, and honestly, this is a pretty awesome place to be, if I may say so myself. Especially for women in Western culture, we are so conditioned to want to hide, to want to perform. Like walking down the street, walking through the grocery store, I remember when I was younger, and I mean like younger isn't a year ago. Even when no one was looking at me, just sort of feeling like I didn't know who I was, or like feeling like maybe this subconscious shame of who I was, or insecurity, and just like I didn't fully have my feet on the ground. After my body awakening, as I've gotten into embodiment, if you've ever heard anyone talk about celebrity energy, I think this is what they're talking about. I can literally look like what I would define as my worst and walk down the street, and when I tell you that people stop and look at me like they think I'm a celebrity, I am not exaggerating. This has been happening for the past couple weeks, maybe even more, like probably past few weeks, like frequently. It had me thinking like, what's changed? So interesting that like when you are embodied fully, you know who you are, you don't care who's watching, and you just walk down the street and you're just doing your thing. For me, like I'm always talking to ChatGPT about my channel, about like philosophy and like questions that I have, and dissecting things. There's something magnetic about that, I think. When someone is inspired and rooted and awake in that way and embodied in that way, like people want that. And people are like, who is that? So don't skip the hard stuff, because this phase, when you can embody who you really are, show up in a rooted way. I mean, I'm only really just talking about like the social effect. I didn't even get to the channel. I mean, like, gosh, the way that I feel like I am putting out a signal into the algorithm and all of you beautiful people are finding me, that's crazy. That's just wild to me. When I was younger, before I reached a level of embodiment, I was so desperate. I did not have the ability to put signal out, and like I think that's kind of what happens. Like when you're not embodied, you grasp. You want to control things. You want to try to you feel like you have to effort your way there. But when you're embodied, you know you can root into the ground, put up your little signal flag or whatever you want to call it, your like smoke alarm. I have no idea. And people find you. People come to you. You become magnetic. And that's literally happening right now. And again, I know like we've talked about this. I talked about this in the 7 Stages of Awakening video, which by the way, I'll link below if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely check that out. That framework is super helpful and super relevant to a lot of the things that I talk about on my channel. But to really feel and experience the way that being like truly being magnetic, and I don't mean that in like I think I'm better kind of way, because this is something we all have access to. This is not a reflection of me being better than someone. It's because I've gone through this process. I leaned into the hard stuff. I surrendered to what I don't know. I opened my heart and soul up to the world beyond logic, beyond fact, beyond hard, tangible evidence. And I realized that there's so much more else out there, and that when we feel, we embody, we become our whole self, which we are otherwise cut off from. And when we're otherwise cut off from, we don't have that much power, you know? I mean, like down to my soul, down to my core, the way that I'm showing up right now is drawing people in the grocery store, on the street, on YouTube, and you just need to know that this is something we all have access to. And it is a fun place to be. Feels powerful. I feel very powerful. I've always felt a power inside of me. I think it was untamed and unchecked, and it came out in unhealthy and counterproductive ways. But embodiment is like when you learn how to harness it and step into it and own it and show up in the world and be like, yeah, that's me, that's right, you know? And people will be like, who is that? When you look your worst. I'm telling you, that's the energy I'm in right now. So again, there's much more deeper, beautiful things about this phase, obviously. So I just wanted to talk about the embodiment phase because I'm just like feeling that vibe today. And I wanted to own it and bring it to the table here so you could get a taste of it if you haven't already. You know what? Let me know if you've ever had a moment of embodiment, because even before this, sometimes we can get glimpses of embodiment. For example, I think in yoga, when no one's watching, or when I'm dancing and I do like intuitive movement and no one's watching, I've been able to channel that embodiment. Even if as soon as someone walks in, I like immediately, you know, want to hide myself in the past. Now, I don't really care. Like literally here I am being a weirdo on the camera and on the internet, and I don't care. But in the past, yeah, like that was unheard of. Like even like the camera would turn on and be like, hi, you know what I mean? Like where I really wanted to perform and try to squeeze into like a little container that was acceptable. Think of a time where or an activity where you feel embodied. Sometimes it also feels like a bit, I think there's a connection maybe to flow state as well, where you kind of just let yourself exist. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there and get outside and get some sun. I hope that you are having a beautiful day or night wherever you are. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. A lot of content like this, but I promise there's a lot more informative, educational stuff too. There's a mix of silliness and personal stuff and all of the above. So definitely check it out, and I would love to hear from you as well. All right, I will talk to you soon. Bye.